Hello, everyone. I'm not going to do a Facebook Live today, but I will do a recording and then I will post it on Facebook. What I wanted to first do for this week, my live at 5, is first kind of go back. As I record, I like to kind of look at everything and just kind of see what I was saying, what I was doing, and any type of corrections I need to be made. Because, as promised, I want this place or this space to be accurate information. So, if it's going to be like a joke or something, I would definitely warn you or tell you afterwards. But for the most part, this is a season of seriousness because of so much that's going on. And so I just wanted to use this platform in a good way. So just to kind of go back and fact check, I don't think I really did a good job explaining cognitive dissonance. And so I have a tendency to explain stuff. And then in my head, I'm kind of like speaking faster than I'm thinking or thinking faster than I'm speaking. And so I have to keep in mind of my audience. My audience, I'm sure, is going to be broad. And so I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anybody hanging, especially since I'm not necessarily engaging people. At some point, I'm going to engage people. Right now, I'm very new at this. I'm a little nervous, if you guys believe it or not. And so I just wanted to, again, just kind of update and touch bases on some of the things that there were some errors that I made. So the one error I made, just to make sure I get it out the way, Syria is not a Caucasus country. The rest of them were, but not that one. So again, from the terminology of Caucasian, a lot of people use that as a description for white people, and that's incorrect. White people are actually Anglo-Saxons or Europeans. They're not Caucasian. I don't believe I got the actual name for the person who came up with the terminology of Caucasian. Let me try to get this real quick. So the term Caucasian is used to describe people who are white or have origins in Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, which is interesting. The term Caucasian was developed by racial scientists, okay, who consider people of these groups to be mixed race. This created a racial hierarchy with Western Europeans on top. The term has been criticized. The Caucasus is a region that runs from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea and is considered the crossroads between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. Again, I'm trying to find who came up with that terminology. Figures I wouldn't be able to find it. I should have had it already ready so I wasn't wasting people's time because I don't want to do that. Okay, let's see. Okay. I will do my best to get back to this. I don't want to waste too much time trying to find this man's name. But basically, there was a scientist from like the 1800s, or maybe even earlier than that, who came up with this term of saying, the Caucasus Mountains were so grand and beautiful and white. So he felt that the white people were majestic over all other races because it's the three. At the time, now it's like seven, but at first it was Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid, which I'm sure Asians don't like to be called that either because Mongoloids are also known for people with like cognitive disorders. So again, just to kind of be clear about that information. So moving on. So another correction that I wanted to make was the AIDS, the HIV/AIDS transmission to Black women. So initially, for those of you who may not have heard me say, initially I was baffled by this idea that Black women became the larger number of cases with HIV or AIDS. And I was kind of like disturbed by that because I was trying to think about how is that when white men and Black women don't really interact as much. Now they do. Historically, they have, not by their own choice. Now they do by choice. But when I thought about it a little bit more, I said, okay, the Black man, I guess it's supposed to be the down low brothers or whatever they was calling, but I still for some reason just that don't sit well with me to believe that that Black women, that many men were engaged in sexual activity with Black women, that made Black women the larger number of people who have HIV or AIDS. And I say this because I know, not like I met and seen everything, but when you look at the sexual activities of white women college students, they get it in. When you look at them, how drunk they get, and the cases of rapes and a lot of the other stuff that goes on in college, and I've heard some stuff. Not going to go into the details of that, but you know, they're what I know based on studies or information, that usually even with abortions, a lot of times white people pay for medical treatment out of pocket, and Black and other poor people pay. They go through clinics that are funded by the government, and so when you go to those clinics using state insurances and stuff, they have to document and record that information for statistical purpose so they can get money for grants. But if you are somebody who comes from a well-off family, or you like, I don't want nobody to know about this, you can take a credit card, swipe it, and have the doctor to take care of the business that you need to get taken care of. And so what I do is I'm kind of like the conspiracy theory, so to speak. Like when something don't make sense, it don't make sense. So what I like to do is I like to try to find out what's not making sense, because I don't like it. Like I said the first time, the first week, I'm not with that inferiority stuff as a Black woman. I'm just not for that. So when I hear things like Black this and Black that, to be honest with you, we're not riding on that no more. You know, all this turning the other cheek. Oh, that's what they say. We have to rise up above how they're racially gaslighting us, okay, with this rhetoric. Now we can't say nothing about them, nothing at all, nothing, but yet they can keep on putting us out there, whether it be statistics or whatever they come up with. Like Trump, not to be focusing on him all the time, but he just straight up was disrespectful to Kamala Harris, right? And even with the Democrats, the reason why a lot of people don't roll with them, because they punks. Yeah, I said it. They're punks. And nobody wants to deal with somebody who's okay with being bullied. Because the ideal is, well, we don't want to we don't want to stoop to their level, or we don't want to do. Come on now. For anybody who's been in school and been bullied, the way you have to get it in is get it in, or you're going to keep on being bullied. You're not going to stop. And it's becoming a consequence to the whole country that they're going to let people just railroad them. And the fact that now we sit back. Now here's this the thing. They keep encouraging people to vote, but yet they don't know how to win, or they don't know how to stay in the front seat, because we know who we up against. When you know who you up, so I guess they need to get hood street 101. Somebody need to go school these people. I know the only person that does a lot of talking is Jasmine Crockett, And I feel sorry for her because, like myself and some others, we get up in here and we get to talking and talking and talking. And I promise you, when she becomes a target by the Republican Party, they ain't gonna have her back. Watch. They're gonna have her back. They're gonna be way back there. They're not gonna have her back. So I hope Jasmine Crockett, as a young woman, an attorney, very intelligent sister, very smart, and that's why she could be a very big example. They can make an example out of her, so they can shut everybody else up because she doing a lot of talking. I love how she keep it real. Everybody like, hey, girl, you go, girl, but trust and receive and believe she gonna get a visit at some point and they gonna shut her up and ain't nobody on the Democrat Party gonna have her back. They just gonna be sitting there like shaking their head like nobody told her to say that. So Jasmine, if you're hearing this, please shut up or just find out who's on your team, because I know that people who clap stay back and then they disappear on you. So I just don't want nothing to happen to you, my girl. So anyway, another thing, okay, going back to cognitive dissonance, because I always seem to deviate from that. So the dissonance, as stated, is a conflict between what we believe and what we actually do. Okay. So the example I use from the book, from the person who's the theorist of this cognitive dissonance, would say something like, Black people are my equal. Black people can have jobs. They can do all this, but I don't want them living in my community. But I wouldn't hire one. They're lazy or whatever the stereotype is. And usually it's about stereotype because, and for other racial groups, like Mexicans, for instance, who feel like, yeah, Black men don't want to work or Black women don't want to work. That's not true. We want to work. First of all, we don't want to work the things that you do because we've been there and done that. So, no, we may not want to pick greens and beans and strawberries. We may not want to be migrant workers. So yeah, if you want to say, well, we're above that, maybe we could say that. And honestly, we should be, right? But the way the system works, and you guys are finna get a taste of your own medicine real soon, is most of us who try to be up there, there's some compromising to work amongst white people solely. And I'm doing the dissertation on that now, so I have time to start interviewing people for my study coming up next spring, because I need to actually, show, because like there's a book called Plantation Theory, really good book that speaks about being in a white predominantly space. And again, it's not all white people. So I don't want white people tripping. It's not, but the ones that it is, it's horrible experience. Okay. And how to so and I've heard this I've heard men talk about it, I've heard women talk about it, and I've heard people not talk about it because they want to spare their job. And so, in order to most people who say, well, when I go to work, I don't have no kind of problems, that's because you might be like Tim Scott. Y'all know who Tim Scott is? I love you so much, Trump. I love you too. Him, the one that's never going to have a job again. And the thing about it is, if you're like Samuel Jackson, sir, and I don't even want to call it what it is because I worked with one before where he was like, we got it good here. We got it good here. And I'm like, how do we have it good here where you got you're a Black man with a bachelor's degree. You sit up here, come to a homeless work with cufflinks on and driving a BMW, but your boss, who's been working here less time than you from England, is your boss. And he only got a high school diploma and he ain't even a citizen. How do we got it good here? And then to find out he was always running around telling on me. Then when I called him what he is, and I'm not going to repeat it right here, but what I called him what he is, he tried to tell on me about that too. And my thing is, you are that. What am I supposed to say? And so people will say, well, Terry, you wrong. You out of order. No, he out of order. He's out of order. Why am I out of order? Because he got it good here and we don't. So that's how we got caught up, is when Nat Turner and anybody else tried to run away, fight, whatever, we got it good here, guys told on us. And I think, I don't know, I might have to look this up too, but I strongly believe that from back in the slave days, that's when snitches got stitches. That must have been when it started. When the slave ran to the master and said, hey, they about to leave, boss. And he said, thank you, Samuel. I'm glad you told me that. Rile them up. We'll rile them up. And so that's how snitching became what it is. It started from them telling. And we still got them out here. So anyway, back to cognitive dissonance, because I always seem to deviate from there. So the conflict between what we may believe and what we actually have done creates tension. So basically, it's like saying one thing and doing another, and then standing on it, right? So it's like, I'm not a racist, but cancels everything out. Even however, oh, I'm not a racist, but however, like, and I know this to be true because white people are mainly the only group of race people that still live in a cul-de-sac with each other, right? There's still like areas within the United States, there's pockets where they're just 85% white people or 79% or 56, there's always still pockets where just only white people live, right? And so, but they're the only ones that say we're individuals. It's impossible, according to psychology and sociology, that who you live around or who you are in proximity with, you're not going to model. That's how people end up talking country or New York or West Coast, is when you're placed in the environment, you will adapt to those environmental behaviors. And we all do that. You go to a company, you work there long enough, you are part of that culture. That's just the way humans, and we don't even notice it. We just kind of vicariously just kind of pick up on stuff and we become that way. And that's one of the problems sometimes when Black people get into a position where it's like, I can't take this. And even though they got this terminology called white fragility, maybe they need to come out with a terminology called Black fragility. The Black fragility is when I get around white people, I get very uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable because I have to code switch and step outside myself to make them comfortable. And that's very stressful. And truth be told, some years ago, I actually started getting high blood pressure, hair falling out, eating snacks, all that kind of stuff, as a response to the trauma I was experiencing. And so, like I was sharing with today, a group of mostly a Black audience of women, is a lot of us in the United States of America, we're so used to being disrespected that our bar is so low with how we are known to be treated. Some of the stuff that we get done to, we don't even recognize it, or we just blow it off. And they have gotten used to that happening. So as soon as you say something, they get all like this. But if we would have called it out and just had to take it, maybe things would have changed by now. So what I'm going to be talking about now that I think I've clarified cognitive dissonance again as a opposition of saying one thing and doing another, basically, right? So it's like you're contradicting yourself. So, again, it's like, oh, I have a lot of Black friends. No, you don't. You work with some Black people, but they're not your friends. Friends are like, I've been over your house, you've been over mine. We went on vacation together, something like that. Just because we have lunch together doesn't make us friends. Okay. So another thing, so that part is done. So I'm gonna get done with that part. So again, going back to the correction about Black women and HIV/AIDS. Just remember, I don't have, and so a lot of stuff don't have proof. We can't get proof of it because the purpose is, why are we going to get proof of it if it's intentionally made to be hidden? Okay. So a lot of times people say, well, you ain't got proof of that. Of course I don't, because y'all do a lot of things behind closed doors. That's why y'all be paying it out. If Black people had the money to pay for privacy, we would do it. Or if we knew we could have it, but we don't have it like that. Matter of fact, half of the time we go to the doctor, if you ain't paying attention, they're going to be using you as guinea pigs. So, and they do. And here's another thing that I brought up today. Although we are not still being lynched on trees, that's because the way the lynching looks now is yellow tape and makeshift graves on the street. That's the same representation of death or homicide. So we don't, when they talk about, oh, slavery was a long time ago, this was Jim Crow, we still in it. No, we ain't got Tyrone hanging from a tree like the strange fruit. He ain't hanging from the tree. But we got a makeshift grave on the corner or on every corner. We got yellow tape that lets us know somebody's body laying over there. So what's the difference between the strange fruit, which is the body hanging from the tree, as Billie Holiday sang, versus the man laying in the street? And like one of my colleagues had mentioned, the trauma is real because name any time you've seen a white man get shot down on TV. Besides, I think the one that was allegedly shooting at Trump. And they didn't even really show him get shot. Because I've seen police like pop, 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 shooting a Black man like 17 times in the back. They show that. You know why they show that? Because they desensitizing all of us to not care. But you'll never see, like my friend was saying, you'll never see 5 white boys sitting on the curb with their hands handcuffed. Or you'll never see a white boy slammed up against the car in handcuffs. Never. Even the ones that are just got through shooting up people, you'll never see them slamming them on a car or having them sitting on the ground, on a hot ground. You'll never see that. That's a problem. So so we're not just talking about George Floyd. We're not talking about the knee on the neck. That was a moment of a catastrophic incident because we all were sitting still. Because George Floyd would have been just another brother dead if we were all on pandemic punishment. But because we were all on pandemic punishment, we all were just sitting. I still haven't seen the video. I just refuse. I don't want to see it. Because I still have Michael Brown's body laying there on the ground, still etched in my brain. So I don't want to see the rest of them. And when I did see 2 other guys get shot, I was just like, I can't believe they're showing this. Like, how insensitive. How insensitive is it to keep showing us getting killed? And the sad thing about it is it could be any one of us at any given time. So we have to stop taking this racism stuff lightly, because it's just going to get worse. Because the same way it got worse when Trump got in office the last time. Oh, you think it ain't going to get worse this time when he already talking about immunity for cops who kill? And he finna do the death penalty? Who you think gonna be on the death penalty? Especially you brothers talking about, ooh, Trump, he got a mug shot. Anyway, so one of the things I wanted to get into, because again, I'm always going to just do this for 60 minutes, 1 hour, not any longer than that. I wanted to talk about Stockholm Syndrome. And for those of you who don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is or have never heard of it, Stockholm Syndrome is an incident that happened in a 1973 bank robbery where the robber who was in the bank took hostages, and while they were held captive, they somehow not necessarily fell in love with their captor, but they mourned or they had developed a relationship with their captor. And the way I think, like I said, I always listen to different commentaries of different sorts. And somehow this word came up in my mind. I heard about it. I never really dug into it really. I heard about it. I knew what it meant from a top layer, not a bottom layer. But as I started to dig in deep, I said, you know what? African Americans have Stockholm Syndrome. Why? Because we live in a country that we were held captive, and we have a very dysfunctional relationship with our captors. Does that make sense, or should I frame it a different way? So, like, for instance, for hundreds of years and still to this very day, separate and unequal, or you over here, we over here. And the whole ideal of Jim Crow or desegregation or whatever is that Black people are in a caste, CASTE, as an inferior group. Even though we're not inferior, they'll say exceptions can be made. Jordan, Michael Jackson, just different African Americans have been deemed special. There's the special ones, right? So just like they'll say there's a few white people that are not cognitively apt, that there's some Black people that can shine. But overall, the race as itself is inferior. Now, had conversations with some very intelligent individuals, my uncle and them, just to be frank. And, more emphasis needs to be placed on who we are as a people. Because who we are as a people has been taken out of context. We have, especially this new generation, because see, from the generation I came from, we still had grandparents that seen people hanging from trees. So there was a different value system and in a different world that we were still introduced to know who we were. This generation, again, going back to Martin Luther King, and I said it wrong the last time, that integration, he feared that he ran his people into a burning house. Again, I probably didn't do it right again. So anyway, but you know what he said. And the stuff, it's interesting that now that King has been dead as long as he had, and here's the thing that bothers me too. Just like recently, a lot of the white politicians have been quoting King, and King's kids is like, keep my daddy name out your mouth. So, and I want you guys to understand this is important. Now, some of you guys know this. I know you do. Some of you don't. Some of you kind of knew it. Whatever, wherever you at in your scope of this conversation, cool. But what I'm saying is history repeats itself, because here we go again, whitewashing. So let the Greeks tell it they created everything. They're never going to tell you they stole it from Egypt and conquered them, and then try to turn them white, right? With Cleopatra and all these other people, right? Now, Geographically, and I skipped geography, and I hate that I did now because I love geography. I should have stayed in that class. I think I only went down there once. Anyway, that's not important. So geography is, if you know, like North Africa, if you know Northern Africa, Sudan, right here, which now has been conquered by Arabs, which are dark people, but Sudan is the blue black Africans. Blue black Africans. How can you have blue black Africans here, and then right across the Nile, you got white people? You got the Jewish people. I mean, not the Jewish, I'm sorry. You got the Egyptians, right? So what they don't tell you is Egypt was Kemet, and they named it Egypt, which means like burnt face or something like that. Like Ethiopia too means something to do with burn or dark or black. It's just another word or Greek terminology for that. So again, we have to know who we are. And like I have explained, no, I'm not going to Africa unless I'm going to visit. There's no reason for me to move there. Trust me. Maybe I'll go visit, but all this hype about going back to Africa, ain't nobody finna go over there. The Chinese own that. I keep telling everybody. Now people starting to know the Chinese own Africa. Because Africans still ain't got it right. They keep selling themselves out. I don't know why they do that. But what I do is I owe my ancestors. We owe our ancestors the freedom that they fought and died for. And so that's not over yet. Right. And we're all and so why you guys are probably saying, oh, why is she tripping? Why is she, what is all this? Trust, receive, and believe, y'all. Next year, the year after next, the year after next, when we starving, when we fighting over toilet paper or whatever, watch. You're gonna be like, nah, I know what she, because I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not trying to be patting myself on the back or nothing, but I have not been wrong yet. Now, I do a little exaggeration sometimes. People that know me, I do a little exaggeration. But overall, I have not been wrong yet. I haven't. And I'm not proud of being right about stuff that's wrong. But somebody got to be a realist in this camp, because some of y'all running around here, y'all know it too, but y'all want to be delusional. Y'all don't want to believe it. And it's so unbelievable. Sometimes you can't believe it because it's just like, oh my God. Like some of y'all still in denial that Trump is going to be president. And I've heard people say that, is it too late for me to change my vote? But this is an example of, first of all, there's no democracy. Because if there was, this wouldn't be what we're going through. Honestly, we wouldn't be going through this if there was real democracy. That's first and foremost. Second of all, keep in mind about the 14th Amendment. So a lot of y'all know about the 13th Amendment just because Netflix did that 13th movie, but really, the 13th Amendment really just got y'all, just really created mass incarceration. That's what the 13th Amendment did. The 14th Amendment is what keeps us in this country. And we can be put on a boat if they decide to eradicate the 14th Amendment. Now, I know, just like welfare, they can't do that. They can't do that. They can do whatever. They did it when they did it before. You think they can't do it again? I'm still trying to figure out how the hell they got millions of black people on a damn ship and brought them over here. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I know people going to be tripping when I say this, but when Kanye West made that statement about slaves not being free or whatever, in the back of my mind, And I never agree with Kanye West on too much, but it did make me think like we at a point in time outnumbered white people. I almost believe we still do. We outnumbered them. Matter of fact, next time I meet with you guys, I'm going to talk about the Second Amendment. Because I did bring up something about the Black Panther Party and Grandmaster Jay from the Don't Fuck Around crew or whatever their name is. And I did make an error on that too, but I was going to save the Second Amendment because, again, that's another law that wasn't for us. It was for us, but not for us, if you get what I'm saying. And so we have to stop that us and we stuff because we're not Americans. We're African Americans. That's why we're called that, because we're not Americans. Americans is like, we're like knockoff Americans. Basically, we're African American, or we're whatever they call us for the season. Because we all went from Negro to colored to Afro American, and then now we're African American. And then I prefer Black, even though I know I'm not Black like this shirt, but I prefer Black, okay? Because that's just what it is. But again, using this last few minutes to talk about Stockholm Syndrome, again, the syndrome part is, again, most people say, well, how did it get to the syndrome? Because that's about disorder, disease, or symptoms or whatever. But it is kind of a mental disease, so to speak, when you talk about loving your captors, loving your oppressors, right? Like battered woman syndrome. People say, how is she staying with that man? He keep beating her like that. Well, how in the hell we keep letting white folks beat us like that? Whether it's mentally, physically, financially, psychologically, we doing it. We have this love-hate relationship that is now showing us we have to do something different. Now, I'm not about violence. I'm not about that life. Now, I'm not opposed to it either, because that turning the other cheek, anybody that know me, I have a hard time letting go of stuff for a reason. And although I'm a little too old for that drama, I still don't believe in be a bigger person, because that bigger person gets you hurt, like feelings, because you're like, I'm trying to be the bigger person here, and people just, they kicking me. They kick a person when they down. I don't get it. But going back to Stockholm Syndrome again, is a coping mechanism to a captive or abusive situation. So the Stockholm Syndrome, again, is a coping mechanism to a captive or abusive situation. So that's the terminology, what it turned into. So again, it started off from a 1973 bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. Okay. During the 6-day standoff with police, many of the captive bank employees became sympathetic towards the bank robber. Now, from a bigger scheme, again, thinking about slaves, enslaved people, all the bad stuff that has happened to us in this country, we have still found a way to treat them better than we treat ourselves. And that's real talk. And so I know people out here like shaking their head. That's fine. It's called denial. Because racial grief is real. We have racial grief because we can be all and they say you could be all you could be, but a lot of us can't. And like I keep saying, you're gonna hear me keep saying that when they show you better than they can tell you, they took Nick Cannon, Ye, and Diddy down. Cannon ate his humble pie, made his apologies with the Jewish rabbis and stuff. Yay, do what Yay do. And Diddy, he finna do time, more likely. But let's say even if he don't do time, he's gonna be so humiliated, he may not ever recover. And so when you think about all the other white males who either Trump is trying to put in office or like Weinstein and Epstein, Weinstein didn't get dragged through the mud like this. Now I think he did do some time. He didn't do it was real hush hush. But they put big old posts, and I'm not condemning Diddy's behavior. I'm just saying we have to pay attention to the double standards. And we as a people have to stop letting them make us hate our own people. I'm not approving his behavior. I'm just saying, hey, if it's good for him, let somebody else. Why is Trump becoming president? He got the same track record, if not worse. And that's what I'm saying, the racial double standards. And I'm gonna say this to my white peers or friends or audience or whoever. It's interesting how, again, the cognitive dissonance is where everybody's talking about, well, I didn't like her policies. So you tell me, what policies did you like of Trump? Next time when a white person say they didn't vote for Kamala Harris because they didn't like her policies, ask them exactly what policy did Trump give them that they liked. Because I haven't heard nobody say exactly what policy they liked of Trump's. No policy. Because all I remember is him dancing off that stupid song YMCA and that other little orchestra song. And he still hasn't talked about policies. So that's the cognitive dissonance part, or symbolic racism part, where you will say any and everything but what is real, because you have tricked yourself into not saying it, or don't say it. We're going to have to say it. I'm going to be in the middle of the street. I will say I'll get naked, but I'm not going to do that because that's just not my character. But I'll scream at the top of my lungs, you guys are racist. You are. And racist, not a noun, but a verb. Because your actions are racist. You would say anything but why she lost is because she's a Black Asian woman. Because when I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about God, I lost my train of thought. They were talking about white people and Thanksgiving, how a lot of them fell out with their families over the political stuff. This ain't about politics. This is about values and morals. This whole political, so again, what I'm saying is white people saying they've fallen out with their family members, or some Black people too. Let me not exclude them, or Mexicans. They're saying that they fell out with their family members because of political views. Don't do that. Don't give your family members that much grace, because this wasn't about politics. This was about our forefathers. Jefferson, James, all of them white men that signed the Declaration of Independence, which separated them from Europe, gave them America that they took from the Native Americans and whipped us until we built it. And they're still trying to keep it that way. No, they're not whipping us, but they're whooping us. No, they're not hanging us from the tree, but they're lynching us. Like I said, don't get it twisted. The wallpaper, the foundation is sturdy. The house, they have added an extra bathroom, maybe put a second story up there. But at the end of the day, the house is the house. America, we're still the house that white supremacy built. That's what we are. And so until we all start thinking like this, we're going to keep being in this mess. Because when it's one of us here, one of us there, one of us there, one of us there, y'all will stand back the same way. They'll look at the like Jasmine Crockett talking, me talking, and the next thing you know, everybody else is shaking their head like, well, nobody told her to say that. So Stockholm Syndrome is you would rather be submissive in your misery and your oppression than stand up for what's right. See, I'm going to tell you something. This is why I have a problem sometimes with my brothers and sisters, because you will step to me and then humble yourself for them. And then they'll turn around and laugh at you. Look at them. They killing each other. They fighting each other. Yeah. That's what they do. And some of y'all, it's not okay. And again, out of respect, because some people just don't know because your bar too low and it's not your fault. Some of y'all just haven't been in a situation where you hear and see what it looks like. And the thing that I've learned or learning is until I went back to school and started, like I was just telling, I think my husband, I think I was telling him this. I can't, I left a job 2 years ago for so many different reasons. And I've since started kind of a little bit trickling back into different work settings. And where I'm at, I guess, education wise and professionally, I'm the only Black person. Oh, again. And I think a long time ago, that might have been a good feeling because I didn't know better. But it's not. At least not for me, because I'm not that Black person. I'm not that Black person. I could be cool with anybody. For real, for real. I have one colleague. I loved her to death. I loved working with her, had fun with her, the realest person ever. Great. And it had nothing to do with white. She was just cool. Like a lot of them. I had a friend last night. Love her to death. Love her, love her, love her, love her. Great person. So I'm not talking about them. But when you get in a situation where it's one Black against 6 others, and the tension is thick, because now I have to put myself in a framework to make them comfortable. Because maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's in my head. Maybe I'm overthinking. But I know that if I drop my guard, I know this because I've done it. And I know you out there who know this. When I think they did a parody once about this. When you accidentally slip and that hood residue come out and they like, skirt, like, what did you just say? I'm like, oh, heavens to Bessie, did I say something? So I'm just saying. And then I gotta you know how you get too comfortable around somebody? Like, okay, I'm gonna do this one. Not you new age people, because y'all cuss around y'all grandmamas. For some of y'all, like back in the day, like you kicking it with somebody who's like older, and mature, and you kicking it, and you accidentally cuss, and you like, oh, did I just cuss? Ooh, and that older person be like, see, you don't got too comfortable with yourself. So yeah, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. When you get too comfortable and you have that what they call Freudian slip, it's like I feel like I'm outed. Now they know that I'm black. Because truth be told, they'll say something like, I didn't see you like that. I didn't see you as one of those type of people. What type of people is that? I swear to God, I've heard this on TikTok. When I right now, when I get in my car, the song that comes on, I won't deny it. I'm straight rider. Do you want to with me? And I remember when I was working at county down the way, it was a straight shot. And I would get off of work. I used to be so mad. My days was long. I used to be so mad. And I'll throw in DMX, this one song I love of him when he like doing a hit, or and again, that was a form of displaced aggression because I couldn't act up. I knew we black folks, we know better. We know when we got one every now and then that slip up and act out. We know that for the most part, it take a lot of psychological restraint not to show your black ass at work. And a lot of us pray, go meditate, go eat chocolate, order a whole bunch of packages, whatever we do to cope. But I trust, receive, and believe we do something. And for those who are complicit or complacent, God bless you guys. I don't know how you do it. But I can't do it because I just can't. When I think about what sacrifices had to be made for me to be this far in life, I don't know how anybody can rest. And so as I get ready to wrap up, because again, I'm only doing 60 minutes because I don't want to do longer than that. Some of the things, again, I will be kind of talking about Stockholm Syndrome ongoingly because I want people to understand it's a psychological conditioning. We have been conditioned to have a relation with our frenemies. It's almost a necessity of survival that we have custom ourselves. Like they'll say, well, our school systems and our this, that, and the other is bad. Of course it's bad. You think the oppressor is going to educate your kids to ride? Let me remind you of this. For those of you who do not know this, because a lot of us know this and we act like we don't know it. And there's a lot of us who just don't know this. When they went to Africa, they knew exactly who they were getting. They knew they were getting astrologers, engineers, mathematicians. They knew what they were getting. But what they did was they brainwashed us to thinking we were jungle bunnies and we were running around naked and nappy headed and black as dark. That's what they did. They made us think we were ugly and useless. And what's really sick about this all, people, they was sleeping with us. So what does that say about them? Ugh. If you thought we was half human, y'all having sex with us, what does that make you? That was, in a sense, even though it's not true, but in a sense, if they were sleeping with us and they thought we weren't human and we were this, that, and other, that means y'all was doing a form of bestiality. Basically. And so that was a piece of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is kind of like the kidnapper situation where Thomas Jefferson loathed Black people. He got it in his book, The Notes of Virginia, where he talks about the grotesqueness of Black people, but yet you got one harbored in an adjacent room to your bedroom. And she was the slave, the child of a plantation to your first wife. And the reason why you had her, because she was a slave that came with your wife. When you married her, she was part of the dowry. And then when your wife died, you started sleeping with her. And then when she went to France, she found out, oh, I could be free. So again, a reason why they don't want history taught in schools, because like they said, I think Frederick Douglass said, if you give a nigga a book, you give him his freedom. And now we got Black folks that don't want to learn nothing. We don't want to go to school. We don't want to do nothing, which is understandable, because enough is enough about learning about them. It's time for us to learn about ourselves. Because when I was growing up, I looked at Africa as them being hungry with big bellies all the time. And Sally Struthers talking about, if you can give 10 cents a day, we can feed these children. And I used to be like, oh, thank God I'm not in Africa, because I ain't going to be starving. And come to find out, that ain't even hold the whole Africa. So they gave us this. And so what we did was self-hatred. So I remember, and I'm sure you guys do too, I'm part Indian. I'm part white. Yeah, not in a healthy way. And being Black is probably better than being Native American. No disrespect to my indigenous brothers and sisters. Because like I've always said, which is worse? Being taken from your land or having your land taken from you? I think we both lost. But what I don't understand, and again, as I say this as I'm getting ready to wrap up, and this is not being evil and hatred and oh, do you hear this Black woman talking? It's the truth. It's the truth. It's interesting. I can hear the truth, somewhat of the truth, when it comes to the criticism of Black people. But when we really talk about the dominant group, which is the white people, the Caucasians, the Anglo-Saxons, the Europeans, whatever they want to be called, and that's another thing. Anyway, name a contribution that they've done for the world. Any contribution that they've done as a contribution in history. So, like for instance, the Chinese. Even though the Italians get credit for pasta, the Chinese is the one that created pasta. The Chinese is the ones that created gunpowder. Black people created ink. Like for instance, I was watching a video about the history of Levi jeans. Very interesting history, by the way. And the way they got the blue is through the indigo that the Africans did. The Africans came up with that color of jeans. And actually, it was the enslaved African people who actually created that product. So here we go again. There's a lot of stuff that we could not patent. The slave master got the credit for it. Because think about it. How was the slave master going to invent anything if he wasn't working? See, you create a way of working smarter, not harder, if you're working. Like, look, master, I don't found a way to take the cotton where we ain't got to bust our fingers open to pick it. So boom, there you got the cotton gin. You got peanut butter. You got the lights. You got air conditioning. You got an iron. You got welding practices. Now, don't get me wrong. And again, and that could be debated too, because again, as when you look at pre-civilization, the Greeks and the Romans, when they were scavengers, kind of the same way of colonialism, when they was trying to seek information and because the Moors came out first. So these people was like, we need to find out where these dark, burnt-faced people coming from, because they got the magic. They know some stuff. So they left, and here's the thing, keeps on repeating itself. So they left and they went to Egypt and they were blown away. They was like, this got to be heaven. Look at these beautiful people. Look at this beauty. Look at these pyramids. Look at, it's just beautiful. All this color, reds and purples and blues, wines, and, and then they took it. And then they sent the soldiers, the king, oh, I want this. Go get it. And that's what they did. And there you go. And the same thing's happening again. And think about it like this, like they said in Kenya. The colonizers brought the Bible, told us to close our eyes, and taught us how to pray. And when we opened our eyes, we were enslaved. And we haven't come back from that. We may not be like this, but we definitely like this. And then when you have somebody who's free-minded, woke, that's when you will watch your brethren become made example out of. That's why we don't have King, and that's why we don't have Carmichael, and that's why we don't have Malcolm X. Because they stood on principles. They didn't like being inferior. And we're not inferior in no kind of way. Our DNA it goes back hundreds of thousands of years. We are Mother Earth. And we've been tricked into thinking we're not. So I leave you guys with this. Again, we have to do better. We are intergenerationally traumatized. As Dr. Joy DeGruy said, it's epigenetics. That trauma, the same way we have good genetic genes, intellectually, artistically, whatever, we also have the bad ones. The temperament, some of the depression, some of the anxieties, the things that we can't figure out, like what's going on with me? Why do I have this unsettled feeling? And so we have to say to ourselves, when we look at the condition we're in with Stockholm Syndrome, a physiological or psychological response to being held captive. So we're not captives necessarily. But again, I remind everybody, for those of us who are the descendants of enslaved Africans, we were not immigrants. We were not refugees. And we were not the indigenous group. We were imports. And to my Pan-African brothers and sisters, stop disrespecting us over here, because y'all had a part in having us over here too. And while y'all want to talk about how we are over here, y'all was colonized over there. And y'all got the nerve to try to be bougie, like y'all better than us. Y'all like the indigenous people over here. They raped your stuff too. They raped your country, and they still raping y'all over there. So don't do that to us. Don't come over here acting like you better than we are, because you're not. Matter of fact, we some riders, because we've been over here for a long time and we have made do. And we I believe this next couple of years we're gonna really do something different, because when we in crisis, we rise to the occasion. I just want it to be more about this than necessarily this, because we got this and we could also have this. But we really got to start doing this. This is what we really need to do, because that's the stuff that they got. They one thing I will give white folks credit for, they some thinkers. They some thinkers. They some manipulators. They gangsters when it come down to taking, and pretending they didn't. They good at that. Because if they weren't, we wouldn't be in this situation. And even though they're in the same denial as we are, we just in separate denials. We're in the denial of it's gonna be okay. One day they're gonna love us, just like a battered wife. One day he's gonna love me. One day he's gonna stop punching on me. He loves me. He does. He just doesn't know it yet. And white people are like, I like them, but they just don't do enough to take care of themselves. But by the way, I don't want them working. I don't want nobody. I can't pronounce her name. I can't pronounce her name, even though they got 12 letters in their name with a Z and a Y and a K, and I just can't figure that one out. So I know this probably sounds horrible. So there's a very thin line to this being a comedy show, I guess. But again, this is what it is. This is exactly what it is. And just to recall, I don't know how much of you guys are paying attention to the Trump reparations that he's talking about, or the fact that everybody that he is putting in his administration has a felony or accusation or something. And I just want people to, and then let me say this about Walmart real quick. So Walmart was on the list. I don't know how true it is. I'm just going by what I heard. Walmart is on the list for eliminating their DEI program. They got the nerve, right, to be the one place. Sorry. To get rid of their DEI program. And now they're supposed to be trying to give away $750 for holiday gifts. I know my husband's probably pissed off when I say this, but when allegedly Trump gave us those $1,200 checks, I told my husband I don't want to have nothing to do with that. It's about principle. We ain't that thirsty. We ain't starving like that. You know, I get it. You know, free money or whatever. Everybody want to jump on that bandwagon. But, you know, it's about principles, principality. It's about integrity. You know, I'm just not going. I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving no more. I'm not celebrating Christmas. I ain't gonna lie. I love the Christmas lights. They are so beautiful to me. But I just cannot continue to submit myself to white supremacy and capitalism and anything that's under that umbrella. That's what I'm doing for myself, because that's what I need to do to stand on my integrity in the principles and the values that I'm not always perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. So when people out there like, what's up with her? I remember back in the day, you damn right. That's what really makes me want to be what I am doing today. Because when I didn't know nothing and thought I knew it all, I did myself wrong. I put my foot in my own ass. So for those of you out here that's spitting that, what she used to do stuff, hell, So what? Them days is there. Glad you got a good memory. What the hell did you used to do? Okay. So, but whatever I used to do is called maturity. And I would rather be doing this than still be out here doing what I used to do. So get over yourself. You negative, criticizing, nothing ass people. Come on now, let's keep it real. So in my little space here, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I want you all to know for sure that this is only the beginning, because at some point Facebook is gonna have to be paid for, or it's just gonna change so bad that if it even still exists, because I think Zuckerberg or whoever did this Facebook stuff is on Trump's shit list. So it's gonna be like King Kong and Godzilla fighting. All these billionaires gonna be fighting each other over who gonna be on top, while we down here getting crumbs like bums. So I'm just saying, get ready. Get ready. Whatever you got to do, just get ready. And so we're gonna have to start really having some like in person type dialogues, because we're gonna have to unify so that we don't die. Okay. So I love my community. And with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Like I said, tomorrow I don't feel like putting on my eyebrows, so that's why I'm pre-recording this, because I don't think I'm gonna put on makeup tomorrow. And so with that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.